On September 9th, 2014, Destiny officially launched, marking the beginning of what would become one of the most defining gaming experiences of the decade. Released on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, the game had already built up an unprecedented level of hype. Following Bungie's legacy with Halo, an incredibly successful beta, and ambitious promises of a shared world shooter that blended FPS mechanics with MMO style progression. Within its first week, over 5 million unique players had already logged in, exploring the world Bungie had created. By the end of its first month, that number had surged to 9.5 million registered players, making Destiny the biggest new IP launch in gaming history at the time. The game had generated an astounding $500 million in revenue on day one, securing its place as one of the most expensive and commercially successful launches ever, and at the time, the most successful ever. On average, players were spending nearly 3 hours per day in Destiny's playable areas, an engagement level unheard of for a brand new franchise. The numbers alone prove that Destiny had captivated players in a way few games ever had. But beyond the stats, the true magic of Year 1 came from the experience, the friendships, the grind, and the sense of discovery that made every session feel like an adventure. From the moment players first stepped into the boots of their guardian, Bungie delivered an unforgettable world filled with mystery, challenge, and camaraderie. This video will break down exactly what made Destiny Year 1 so special and the level of detail that went into the immersion and thrill that made this experience so memorable. Bungie took a bold risk, creating an FPS MMO hybrid that redefined multiplayer gaming forever. This video isn't supposed to be a super in-depth synopsis on the lore, quality, and/or flaws that the game may or still has, but rather why this experience in general shaped gaming and why it still stands out nearly a decade later. I'm open to diving into more detailed retrospectives in the future about Destiny, but for now this video is more about how modern gaming can and should take notes from Destiny Year 1, what it got right, and is something today's devs could learn from. Right from the start, Bungie shows their mastery in crafting immersive worlds, this time not for a Spartan, but for a Guardian. They drop you into a breathtaking new universe, one that keeps your eyes locked on the screen. While in it, you're experiencing it in a way that was meant to be played, on a controller. After all, Destiny 1 never found its way onto Steam. The refinement from the Halo series shines through in a first mission that's too often overlooked or unfairly criticized. But regardless of the hate, it does exactly what it needs to. It pulls you into the world Bungie created without going over the top or showing all their cards right away. This game is truly what pulled me into a lifelong commitment to gaming, showing me just how much a game can shape your perceptions, not just of a virtual world, but your own reality. It made me see myself as a playable character in my own journey, constantly leveling up, facing new challenges, and striving to be better. From the moment you were revived by a levitating artificial intelligence and took those first steps into the Cosmodrome, Destiny transported you into a universe filled with mystery and limitless adventure. I also like how the first destination is on Earth. It connects the player in a subconscious way that this could be our reality someday, and that even Russia, being the aforementioned setting, was a brilliant touch. And unlike modern titles driven by monetization models and investor demands, Destiny 1 was crafted with heart, with Bungie's signature touch of excellence that made every moment feel rewarding. Earth in those first few missions in Destiny had a way of pulling players in, not with anything overly flashy, but with a sense of familiarity and promise. It felt like we were stepping into the exact world Bungie had teased for so long, only this time it was real, released, and fully playable. That first mission didn't just introduce us to the game, it set the hook. And that's why Destiny is the biggest launch in history. The first mission pulled everyone in and left them wanting more. I wanted to see the full story unfold, to take on every boss, to experience more of the world Bungie had created. And I wasn't alone. That same craving for more and more became the defining experience of Destiny. both its greatest strength and ultimately its biggest flaw. Bungie's struggle to keep up with the insatiable demand for more by players slowly unraveled the franchise. It was like chasing the dragon, a pursuit that left the first exhilarating high, knowing it may never be fully replicated, or like drawing from a well that eventually runs dry, a disease that community could never truly cure, only temporarily relieved whenever new content dropped, before the cycle repeated itself. Notable missions that stood out to me were The Dark Beyond, the first mission on the moon, a glimpse into Destiny's vision of the moon, and a look into what the moon might resemble in our species' future. The Dark Beyond wasn't just another mission. It was one of the most iconic and defining moments of Destiny Year 1. From the moment you step onto the moon, following in the footsteps of a fallen guardian, there's a palpable sense of mystery and danger. And then the moment happens.
Move back. We've woken the hive.
The infamous cutscene where your ghost scans the floor only to trigger an overwhelming hive ambush. We've awoken the hive. That line became legendary. This mission wasn't tough, and it wasn't just entirely about fighting or gameplay. It was more of a well-balanced mix that gave the feeling of a much larger struggle in the story arc which was felt through the Dark Beyond mission. Eris Morn and her warning signs just added to the mystery and ominous nature, making players feel the weight of the battle ahead. And for many players, this was the first real test of Destiny's combat mechanics, forcing them to manage ammo, movement, and sheer panic as they fought to stay alive. The Dark Beyond established the Hive as a terrifying force lurking beneath the surface of the moon, waiting for their chance to strike. The Summoning Pits introduced players to one of Destiny's earliest and most memorable strike bosses, Fogoth the Untamed. As one of the first true tests of endurance and teamwork, this mission showcased Bungie's ability to create large-scale, intense battles that required strategic coordination rather than just raw firepower. This strike set the gold standard for what players could expect from Destiny's cooperative endgame content. It wasn't just about running in and gunning down waves of enemies. Every moment felt tense, from navigating the depths of the Hellmouth to the final showdown in the prison-like arena. For many, the Summoning Pits was the first time they truly felt the need to communicate with their fire team, call out enemy positions, and strategize rather than just rush in. It was a baptism by fire, and one that made the eventual victory all the more satisfying. The strike was also infamous for players attempting the cheese spot, finding safe areas to exploit Fogoth's AI, a testament to the community's creativity and Bungie's ongoing challenge to balance the game's mechanics. Looking back, this mission remains a defining moment in Destiny's Strike catalog. It established not just the importance of teamwork, but also the thrill of overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. This mission also exemplified Destiny's approach to boss encounters. Fogoth wasn't just a bullet sponge. His aggressive nature, paired with the never-ending waves of hive reinforcements, demanded players to constantly stay on the move and adapt. It was an early glimpse into what made Destiny strikes so engaging: the cinematic scale, intense difficulty, and an emphasis on cooperative play. A Stranger's Call. Directly following the Summoning Pits, we see a glimpse into a terraformed version of Venus. The mission that followed the Summoning Pits did not disappoint, taking players from the depths of the Hive's terrifying layers to a completely different environment. A glimpse into Bungie's version of Venus. The transition was a striking contrast, trading the claustrophobic horror of Fogoth, the Untamed, for the eerie beauty of a world reshaped by the golden age of humanity. Venus was unlike any other destination in the game, a planet where nature and technology had fused in an almost surreal way. The remnants of the Istar Collective hinted at humanity's lost knowledge, while the overwhelming presence of the Vex suggested an ancient conflict that had been waged long ago before Guardians arrived. The mission's pacing was masterful, giving players a sense of discovery as they stepped into an alien landscape that was both familiar and utterly foreign. The Vex structures, their ability to manipulate time, and the abandoned research facilities all contributed to a growing realization. This was no ordinary war. Looking back, the sequence of missions, the summoning pits followed by a stranger's call, showcased the range of Destiny's storytelling and world building. A Stranger's Call introduced players to the mysterious Exo-Stranger, a character whose cryptic words and sudden appearances hinted at a much bigger battle beyond the immediate conflict with the darkness. Though her true identity as a creation of Clovis Bray, and later ties to Anna Bray, wouldn't be revealed until much later, her presence in Destiny 1 was captivating, leaving players with more questions than answers. This mission has also served as the player's first deep dive into the Vex, showcasing their raw power, relentless nature, and unique time-warping abilities. Unlike the Fallen or Hive, the Vex felt completely alien, an unfeeling mechanical force operating on logic far beyond human comprehension. This mission was a major turning point in Destiny narrative structure, setting the stage for the mysteries that would drive the game's long-term storytelling. Up until this point, players had mostly been engaged in fighting isolated battles against the darkness. But A Stranger's Call made it clear that the war extended far beyond what was immediately visible. It reinforced the idea that Guardians weren't just soldiers, but key figures in a much larger cosmic struggle. Looking back, this mission was one of Destiny's first true narrative hooks, planting seeds for future expansions and character arcs that would unfold years later. It was a mission that left players wanting more, proving that Destiny was not just about gameplay, it was about building a universe that felt alive, mysterious, and ever-evolving. The Nexus. Players travel to the Vex-controlled Venus, and facing a massive Vex machine army. The boss in this mission, the Nexus, exemplified the unique mechanics of Vex technology and how they could warp and change reality. This mission expanded on Destiny's lore about the Vex race, emphasizing the game's deep narrative connection to ancient alien civilizations. It set the stage for more mysteries players would unravel in later expansions. As Guardians push through the mission, they descend into the depths of the planet, battling through waves of Vex enemies before confronting Sekrion and the Nexus Mind. The Nexus played a crucial role in expanding Destiny's narrative. The eerie atmosphere of the mission, combined with the labyrinth of structures of Venus and the unsettling presence of Vex, cemented the idea that Guardians were only scratching the surface of something far more profound. The sheer scale of the Nexus Mind's power hinted at the depth of the Vex network, foreshadowing the game's later expansions and the pivotal role this enemy faction would play in Destiny's evolving story. Eye of a Gatelord. This mission introduces players to the Vex Gatelord, a formidable enemy type in Destiny within the eerie futuristic ruins of Venus. The encounter places a strong emphasis on understanding Vex architecture, immersing players in intense combat against the backdrop of a vast otherworldly landscape that showcases the Vex dominance over space and time. The design of the Gatelord's domain plays a crucial role, challenging players to navigate a mix of narrow corridors and expansive battlegrounds. The Eye of a Gatelord mission is a pivotal moment in Destiny's gameplay mechanics, as it introduces several core elements that will become staples throughout the game. First, players must contend with Vex portals, which spawn waves of enemies and force the fire team to adapt and strategize in real time. The Vex network's influence on the environment is evident. This makes the environment feel dynamic, presenting challenges that require players to adapt to the ever-changing battlefield. The Black Garden. The fan-favorite mission and what stands as the grand finale of Destiny Year 1's narrative arc, culminating in the legendary Vault of Glass raid. Here, players face the heart of the Vex, a towering otherworldly presence at the very core of the Vex network. The environment itself is a visual masterpiece, beautiful yet haunting. The lush, surreal landscape of the Black Garden contrasts sharply with the more industrial, worn-out setting of Venus and Earth, immersing players in a world that feels both alien and ancient. This mission is iconic for several reasons. First, it serves as the climactic conclusion to the Vex storyline, where the Guardians must confront the heart of the Vex to prevent the unraveling of the universe itself. The encounter with the heart is more than just a battle, it's a test of everything Destiny had taught players up until this point. Precision, strategy, communication. As the heart's massive form pulses with power, players must coordinate flawlessly to survive waves of enemies while navigating the intricate shifting geometry of the Black Garden. The mission's difficulty ramps up significantly, pushing players to demonstrate mastery over their classes, weapons, and the ever-changing raid environment. It's reinforced the legendary status of Destiny's missions, setting an incredibly high bar for future content. The Black Garden was, without a doubt, a monumental achievement for the game, a perfect blend of challenge, narrative closure, and breathtaking visuals. As the final mission before Destiny's most memorable content, raids, the Black Garden mission set the foundation for the game's future expansions. It was a masterclass in world building, raid design, and storytelling. The sense of accomplishment and camaraderie that came with finishing the Black Garden left an indelible mark on the Destiny community, forging a bond among players that would last for years to come. The mission wasn't just a gameplay experience, it was a statement about the potential of cooperative multiplayer-driven games, proving that when executed well, a simple mission could be the pinnacle of a gaming experience. When Vault of Glass dropped, it wasn't just another day in Destiny. It was the day, the beginning of a new era in gaming where a raid could become an unforgettable journey. The hype surrounding the raid was undeniable. Destiny had already built up a massive fan base, but Vault of Glass elevated everything to another level. It wasn't simply a new mission, it was the mission, a chance to experience something truly epic. When the raid went live on September 16th, 2014, players knew this was not going to be a casual stroll. This was a challenge unlike anything seen before. The raid was structured in a way that demanded perfect coordination, strategy, and most importantly, communication. It wasn't just about shooting enemies, it was about overcoming the raid's intricate mechanics, deciphering puzzles, and working together as a cohesive unit. The Prime Guard clan became legends, conquering the raid in just 10 hours and 43 minutes, and cementing each member in the fire team's place in Destiny's history. They pushed through the stress, the pain, and the relentless trial and error of solving mechanics and overcoming brutal challenges. For a 13-year-old kid like me, it felt like they conquered an impossible feat, shaping the way we would all approach Destiny's most difficult challenges moving forward. The first steps in the vault began at the waking ruins of Venus, where an ancient door stood between Guardians and the mysteries within. This opening sequence immediately established the raid's core philosophy: communication and coordination. 3 sync plates needed to be captured and defended simultaneously as Vex forces swarmed from every direction. As the plates were held, a massive spire would form in the clearing's center, eventually opening the door to the vault. The mechanics in the waking ruins was Destiny's way of declaring the raid weren't about individual skill, but about functioning as a cohesive unit. Veterans would split into pairs with their best snipers covering the middle plate while assisting others. The moment that door finally opened, you knew you crossed a threshold into gaming history. For those who drove in headfirst, it became the defining moment of their Destiny journey. Some would describe it as the gaming equivalent of preparing for a military operation, while others saw it as the most intense multiplayer challenge they'd ever faced. Either way, it became clear: Vault of Glass was the gold standard of raids. Beyond the gate lay the winding tunnels of the Trial of Caber, named after a legendary titan who ventured into the vault but never returned. The first loot chest also appears in this section. While seemingly straightforward, this section served as both a narrative bridge and a moment of quiet tension. As you navigated the precarious platforms over bottomless chasms, the lore of the raid began to seep into your consciousness, the darkness almost palpable as it descended toward the Templar's Well. Emerging into the vast underground chamber of the Templar's Well presented the raid's first true mechanical challenge. The Templar, a massive hydra, guarded this sacred Vex location within an impenetrable shield. Only by using the mystical relic, a weapon left behind by Caber himself, could Guardians hope to defeat this ancient entity. What made this encounter revolutionary was its layered mechanics. While one Guardian wielded the relic to temporarily drop the Templar's shield, others had to contend with oracles, glowing yellow markers that would wipe the team for an elimination, if not destroyed quickly. Meanwhile, Fanatics, a type of Vex enemy, would leave pools of radioactive fluid that would mark players and detain them if stepped in. When the Vault of Glass raid, normal and hard modes first came out, being so underleveled and the amount of damage these enemies would do made the complexity and difficulty pretty unprecedented for an FPS game, forcing players to manage multiple roles simultaneously while maintaining perfect communication. After the intense combat of the Templars' Well, the raid shifted dramatically with the Gorgon's Labyrinth, a tense stealth-like section that showed Bungie's willingness to completely change the pace mid-raid. This vast cavern housed the Gorgons, Vex constructs with the power to wipe your entire fire team from existence with a single glance. Movement became a tactile consideration as sprinting or double jumping would alert nearby Gorgons. Teams would huddle together, following a leader through the darkness, using whisper callouts to navigate the patrols. The contrast between the frantic combat of earlier sections and this quiet, tense infiltration created a rhythm to the raid that kept players engaged on multiple levels. Beyond its gameplay and innovation, the Labyrinth added to the mystique of the Vault of Glass raid, while the possibility of killing a Gorgon, only to have all the others grow stronger, added a fascinating risk-reward dynamic rarely seen in shooter games. This section wasn't just a change of pace, it was a bold statement. Bungie proved that a raid didn't need to be all about combat. It could be about fear, strategy, and the creeping realization that in the Vault, you weren't just fighting the Vex, you were being watched. After surviving the labyrinth, teams faced the infamous jump puzzle, a series of disappearing platforms over an endless chasm. This section tested individual skill rather than teamwork, with each class having their own methods to cross. Titans and warlocks could show off their spectacular leap, crossing the entire gap, while hunters had to patiently hop across the materializing platforms. Beyond the puzzle lay the true Vault of Glass, in the first encounter with the Gatekeeper. This phase brilliantly prepared teams for the final battle, by introducing the time manipulation mechanics that would be crucial against Atheon. The coordination required to manage both past and future portals while defending sync plates and a central conflux ramped up the complexity to new heights. Atheon represented everything that made Vault of Glass legendary. His appearance from beneath the massive archway wasn't just visually stunning, it marked the culmination of all the mechanics you'd mastered throughout the raid. The fight's genius lay in its forced role randomization. By teleporting 3 random guardians to either the past or future, Atheon prevented teams from relying on designated roles. Everyone needed to be capable of handling every aspect of the encounter: relic carrying, oracle slaying, or portal defense. The Time Vengeance phase, where the team gathered on a small platform while the relic holder created a protective bubble, became one of the game's most iconic moments. 6 guardians, united in purpose, unleashing everything they had against the ancient time-manipulating entity. That moment of pure adrenaline, tackling the challenge with random strangers you met online, co-workers, classmates, it didn't matter because you all worked together as a fire team. The level of challenge, difficulty, and mystery of the Vault of Glass, I would say rivals the quality and care of early Easter eggs from Call of Duty Zombies franchise. 10 years later, the Vault of Glass remains the gold standard by which other raids are measured, not just in Destiny, but across the entire FPS genre. It wasn't just content, it was a gaming milestone that changed what players expected from cooperative experiences forever. The Dark Below, December 9th, 2014, Crota's End.
6 of us went down into the pit. Only one crawled out. Crota, son of Oryx. He took everything from me. He will turn his eyes to Earth. And only a true weapon of the light can stop his wrath.
Where the Vault of Glass was a methodical descent into mystery, Crota's End was a headstrong plunge into terror. The Dark Below wasn't just Destiny's first expansion, it was a fundamental shift in tone, transforming the game from cosmic adventure into cosmic horror. Players who had conquered the Vault's calculated puzzles now faced primal, relentless darkness that tested not just coordination, but their courage. As Datto Does Destiny, a famous YouTuber, famously described the raid's opening moments. The descent begins into the Hellmouth. The raid's opening made an immediate statement. No elaborate build-up, no complex mechanics, just a simple sink plate that formed a bridge stretching over an abyss. The true entrance wasn't a grand doorway, but a small, almost dismissive hole at the end of the bridge. One by one, guardians would step off the edge and plummet into darkness. The game's longest fall animation building a sense of dread that no cutscene could match. That freefall set the tone perfectly in Crota's End. You weren't methodically exploring unknown territory, you were being swallowed by it. Nothing in Destiny before or since has captured pure terror like the Abyss. Landing in near total darkness, Guardians immediately felt the weight of darkness debuff pressing down, slowing movement with each passing second. The genius wasn't in the mechanic itself, but in how it transformed familiar gameplay. The lamps dotting the landscape weren't just waypoints, they were temporary sanctuaries from both the encroaching darkness and the endless hordes of thrall that poured from invisible spawns. That brief moment of relief as the darkness burned away, followed by the panic when the lamp began to glow orange before exploding. It created a rhythm of tension and release that kept adrenaline spiking through the encounter. The Abyss wasn't about difficulty, it was about controlled chaos. The Bridge, the Great Divide. If the Abyss tested your ability to move as one, the Bridge tested your ability to operate independently, while maintaining perfect coordination. In theory, this encounter was Bungie's most elegant design, a perfect mirror image challenge where players would ferry across one by one, each becoming essential to the next crossing. The mechanics were brilliantly interconnected, annihilator totems that required constant attention, a bridge that only formed while someone stood on the sink plate, and gatekeepers that could only be killed with the sword. Every role was essential, creating a mechanical dance requiring perfect execution. The bridge encounter on paper is probably the best raid mechanic Bungie ever designed, said the famous YouTuber My Name is Biff. In practice, it became the most exploited. The bridge became a testament to Guardian ingenuity and Bungie's inability to predict how players would dismantle their carefully constructed challenges. The final encounter of Crota's End, Son of Oryx, is one of Destiny's most memorable points in its Year One's history. Unlike the Vault of Glass, where puzzles and mechanics demanded patience and execution, Crota's End was a raw, relentless battle where survival and efficiency dictated success. At its heart lay a single, time-limited weapon, the sword, forcing players to abandon their traditional loadouts and embrace a melee-focused strategy against one of the most fearsome foes in Destiny's history. In this battle, position is everything. In these first moments, Guardians must huddle behind the crystal avoiding Crota's initial gaze, before breaking into two teams, one sweeping left, the other right. As the teams push forward, their first objective is clearing the Boomer Knights, perched in the side towers, an action that triggers the arrival of two ogres and a lone sword bearer. With each cycle, a sword bearer must be slain, granting a Guardian the power to wield the legendary Hive Sword, an ancient weapon with fleeting existence of just 45 seconds. 3 such cycles must be completed, each granting another sword, preparing for the final assault on Crota's shield. Looming over this frenzied battle is the Oversoul, an enormous glowing green sphere that manifests when a Guardian falls, or when Crota stands in hard mode. The Oversoul serves as a hard wipe timer, its countdown pressuring teams to execute flawlessly. After enduring multiple DPS cycles, Crota enters his final stand, marked by a health bar. In this phase, he temporarily becomes immune, forcing the fire team to reposition before the last desperate push. Once his shield drops again, the Oversoul timer resets, granting a mere 20 seconds to land the final blows. Should the team falter, the wipe is inevitable. However, a last-second victory still grants a full clear, even if every Guardian falls in the process. The moment exemplifies the chaotic beauty of Crota's End, desperation, precision, and the thin line between triumph and annihilation. 10 years later, the Dark Below stands as Destiny's coming-of-age moment, when the game transcended its shooter roots and embraced the darkness that would ultimately define its most compelling narratives.
In the end, they all bowed before me. We showed them mercy.
The Reef Wars, a turning point. In this Destiny expansion, released on May 19th, 2015, or better known as the House of Wolves, the story begins in the aftermath of the Scatter, a devastating battle near Ceres, where the Awoken, led by Queen Marisav, decimated half of the House of Wolves. Skolas emerged from this chaos, outmaneuvering rival fallen nobles like Iris and Parax, to claim leadership of the House of Wolves. Initially, Skolas was controlled by the Reef, with Varix, a member of the House of Judgment, crowning the Awoken Queen as the Wolves' new Kel. But Skolas was not content to remain a subjugated leader. Because of this, Skolas led a rebellion, which was fueled by a fervent belief in prophecy. He saw himself as a fulfillment of an ancient fallen prediction, the one who would heal the fractured fallen houses and lead them. Because of this, Skolas led a desperate gambit. His plan was ambitious. He attempted to assassinate the Awoken Queen, break out imprisoned wolf nobility from the Prison of Elders, rally other fallen houses to his cause, and steal Vex technology to manipulate time and strengthen his house. Despite some initial success, including gaining support from the leadership of House of Winter, Skolas failed to unite the other major fallen houses. The Awoken Queen opened the Reef to Guardians, tasking them with hunting down Skolas in a dramatic confrontation on Venus. Skolas attempted to use Vex Gate technology to pull the entire House of Wolves through time, a plan that ultimately failed. Captured and sent to the Prison of Elders, Skolas was executed, effectively ending the Wolf Rebellion, but his legacy would continue to haunt the Destiny universe. Trials of Osiris, PvP Perfection. In May 2015, Bungie launched Trials of Osiris as part of Destiny's House of Wolves expansion, marking a transformative moment for the game's competitive landscape. Before Trials, Destiny's PvP Crucible was often considered secondary to its PvE content, with many players focusing on raids, strikes, and nightfall activities as the core of their experience. However, with the introduction of this high-stakes elimination-style tournament play, Bungie injected a level of prestige and exclusivity into PvP that had never been seen before in the franchise. Trials of Osiris introduced a 3v3 format where fire teams competed in a gauntlet of matches, aiming for a flawless 9-0 record. Success granted players access to the Lighthouse, an exclusive social space filled with high-tier rewards, reinforcing the idea that only the most skilled and coordinated teams could attain the best loot. The high-pressure, high-reward system fundamentally changed how players engaged with PvP, leading to a surge in participation and a shift in community perception. Suddenly, PvP was not just a casual diversion, but a proving ground for elite players. The launch of Trials of Osiris reshaped Destiny's meta, encouraging players to develop tighter team strategies, optimize their loadouts, and master map control in a way that standard Crucible modes did not demand. Weapons like the Doctrine of Passing, the Messenger, and the adept versions of the Eye of Soul sniper rifle became synonymous with high-level play. In addition, Trials highlighted Destiny's netcode issues, bringing latency, matchmaking fairness, and connection stability into the spotlight. Beyond its immediate gameplay impact, Trials of Osiris cultivated a new streaming and content creation ecosystem within the Destiny community. Popular players and streamers became known for their Trials carries, helping less skilled players reach the Lighthouse. This further solidified Destiny's position in the broader competitive gaming landscape, rivaling other PvP-focused titles. Ultimately, Trials was a turning point for Destiny, proving that Bungie could create compelling, high-stakes PvP content to complement its renowned PvE experiences. It blurred the lines between casual and competitive play, ensuring that player versus player engagements held the same weight and significance as conquering a raid boss. This success would later inspire Bungie's continued commitment to PvP-focused events, shaping Destiny's multiplayer identity for years to come. And that pretty much wraps up most of Year 1. I may have skipped over a few things, but it was great revisiting what made Destiny such an incredible game, and I wanted to close out by leaving you with a montage and some of the memories and moments that made Destiny truly special.
Oh, sir, how we've missed you, you tentacle-faced freak. Right then.
One of Destiny's greatest strengths was its emphasis on cooperative play. Whether you were running strikes, patrolling the open world, or attempting to clear a nightfall, you were never alone. It was the late night raid attempts, the friends made in LFG, and the feeling of logging in knowing something amazing could happen that day. It was a game made for players, not for shareholders. Everything about Destiny 1 felt organic, filled with discovery, mystery, and a real sense of adventure. Unlike today's overly monetized live service games, Destiny Year 1 was all about the players, about the friendships, the fire teams, the late night raids, the clutch trial matches, and the legendary loot grinds. No game will ever perfectly capture what Destiny Year 1 did. It was a moment in time that those who were lucky enough to experience will never forget. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. I put a lot of time into this, and I just wanted to let you know your viewership is appreciated, and nothing else is necessary, but a like or sub would make a difference more than you might know. This video was my way of paying tribute to those moments that shaped part of my childhood. Whether you played back then or you're hearing about these stories for the first time, I hope it reminds you why we fell in love with Destiny in the first place. I know this is my first video and I missed so much about Year 1, and my editing isn't the best, but I'm hoping to maybe revisit Destiny Year 1 or make a video on Destiny 2. I have some things in mind, so just let me know and give me some feedback, whether it's good or bad. I've always wanted to be in game development and make my mark in gaming. I hope these videos can at least bring value and add a new level of appreciation to all the people that built and were part of this community. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, Guardians.